In continuing with some more ideas for MLP's future, I began thinking about Applejack's character again. I had already put together one idea that could give her some character growth, particularly in her relationship with Applebloom, and I really think episodes that focus on her family relations are the strongest ones for Applejack's character. But at the same time, Applejack has been having some difficulty getting some memorable episodes to her name. I really enjoy her character and I look forward to seeing more of her. But I realize that she needs something added to her stories in order to give her more opportunities to develop. Some new weakness that she would need to struggle with that also wouldn't take away any part of what makes her so likable. We all know just how strong the Apple family bond is. We've seen several episodes that have shown them working together, playing together, and bonding together. So I began to wonder, what if we had a story where that family bond is being tested? Create a situation where Applejack is struggling to choose sides in a conflict. We would need to be very careful as to how we would present such a story, though. Any family conflict would still need to be believable for all the characters involved. But I think I have something that would work well for a story, as well as present a valuable bit of growth for Applejack's character. First off, we would need a big change to happen at Sweet Apple Acres. Like, say, in a remote corner of the farm where ponies rarely tread. Applejack would be out there one day testing the ground to see whether they could put up some more trees, and suddenly come upon an extremely valuable deposit of gems. Something that even the likes of Rarity has never seen before. Of course, Rarity could give the Apple family a fair estimate on what the gems would be worth, which would end up being more than the value of the entirety of Sweet Apple Acres itself. Word would spread to the rest of the Apple family, causing the Oranges of Manhattan to come for a visit. They would offer the Apple family a very hefty sum for the gems, more than a fair deal. And being family, I could imagine that the Apples would be far less skeptical in dealing with the Oranges. At least far better than their trust of the dealings from the Flim Flam brothers. And so the Apple family would suddenly be rather wealthy, in a far better situation than they ever had been before. And this is where I could see the conflict beginning. Now, Applejack wouldn't really be making any radical changes to her life, but she would be using the funds to fix up some old buildings as well as getting some new equipment for working in the fields. Big Mac wouldn't be saying much about the situation just yet, as he would feel very out of place trying to start a new life for himself. Granny Smith would be rather hesitant to do anything for herself, and start to worry about whether having all this extra money around would change any of them. And her worries would start coming true when Applebloom would start convincing Applejack that they need a whole new lifestyle. As we have seen many times before, Applebloom had been growing tired of being picked on by Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, especially since they often use their family status and wealth as a tool for their bullying. And now Applebloom is finally thinking that she doesn't have to put up with that anymore, because now she can make a better life for herself and her friends. Of course, Applejack would want to make her younger sister happy. She could buy Applebloom a personal tutor for her schooling and give her some very real opportunities for growth in helping her to find a cutie mark. And maybe even take Applebloom and her friends to the Carousel Boutique for a whole new wardrobe. Which would lead to Granny Smith feeling rather upset about all the changes that she sees in her granddaughters. Having lived a rather simple life for many decades, Granny Smith would be talking about how the Apple family bonds have always been driven by their need to work together in order to make ends meet. And she would be greatly worried about whether this newfound wealth would start tearing down those family bonds. Applebloom would feel that she has a chance to start a new life, and now there are new opportunities that weren't ever there for her before. And Applejack would be caught in the middle, not sure which side is right. She too had lived a simple life of working the fields and would realize that the family bond they share came from that life. So she could easily understand Granny Smith's point of view. But she also has a very close bond with her younger sister, being the closest thing to a mother that Applebloom has now. So Applejack wouldn't want to deny any new opportunities for Applebloom, especially if she feels that she couldn't become the best pony she can be without them. I believe this situation could present a very believable conflict that could give all three of them a chance to grow. Applejack would be feeling unsure of herself and decide to start working the fields to try and get her mind off of things for a while. But even in the middle of apple bucking, Applejack's uncertainty and frustration would be constantly getting in the way. At this point, Big Mac would come up to his younger sister seeking to understand her feelings. And this would give the two of them a real defining moment as brother and sister, something that I don't think has really been explored in the series thus far. Applejack would actually come to the point where she doesn't know what to do when Big Mac would begin giving his thoughts. Like Granny Smith, Big Mac would feel that their family bonds have a lot to do with how they work together and strive for each other. And like Applebloom, Big Mac would also feel that they shouldn't be rejecting these new opportunities in life out of a fear of change. And then Big Mac would show a bit of wisdom to his character by suggesting that they use the money to make Sweet Apple Acres more productive than it ever has been before. Planting more trees, constructing more buildings, and even hiring some new hands. Making their family farm into something greater than Ponyville has ever seen. And all the while, the family would still be working together, but not just working the fields anymore. Applejack would have more time to spend with Applebloom, particularly in helping her learn more about growing up and even helping her find new ways of achieving a cutie mark. Granny Smith would also have more time to spend with her grandchildren and would be convinced that this new change to their lives would not necessarily drive them apart. Applebloom could learn that being part of a wealthy family does not need to change who you are and what you stand for. She could even be learning more about what makes life really worth living, while still having new opportunities that weren't there before. And all the while, Big Mac would still be caring for his family in his own simple ways, while also spending more time with Applejack and improving Ponyville with extra projects on the side. The Apple family as a whole could become even more of an inspiring example with the lives they choose to live. No longer out of necessity for keeping the farm going, but out of a drive to improve the community they live in. And at the same time, none of these characters would end up losing anything that makes them so likable in the first place. I believe this kind of moral would really work on a show like MLP. That sudden fortune and wealth should not necessarily have a negative effect on family bonds. We have seen instances where marriages and families have been harmed by disagreements over wealth, sometimes leading to selfish divorce or custody battles. We've also seen how couples and families support themselves and come together in times of poverty or disaster. The old cliché, "money is the root of all evil," is not entirely accurate. I'd like to propose a slight change to it. I prefer to say the love of money is the root of all evil. It is entirely possible to be wealthy and yet maintain strong bonds of family and friendship. When wealth is only a tool to be used for good in the world, when couples and families realize that true joy comes not from possessions and status but from having true contentment within, then family bonds will remain strong in the face of fortune. So what do you think of this episode idea? Would this kind of conflict be believable for these characters? Would this kind of change to the status of the Apple family work in the long run? Would this create new situations that Applejack would have to struggle through, thus giving her a new bit of depth to her character? I would like to hear your thoughts about these ideas, and here's to hoping that we see more of an inspiring character from Applejack in MLP's future. I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.